So, Loki episode 3 was released today, and I thought let's go through it. Let's break down what we saw, and I'll give my thoughts and opinions on it. So, let's go. So, we start off the episode with the Loki-fied Marvel Studios logo, and the choice of music here was really weird. To me, it doesn't fit the show, and they did this last episode when Lady Loki was taking out some of the time variant members. Just as she captured, was it C20? There was this "I Need a Hero" music playing in the background, and it just didn't really fit. I didn't feel like it was necessary, and I don't think it added anything worthwhile to justify using that soundtrack. And then we start with basically what I thought was them trying to take us on a segue and basically say that Lady Loki and C20 was friends. But then after, when she started talking about brain freeze and, the memory being stuck, you realize that this is actually her process of enchantment and her process of mind control of C20. So she's clearly trying to get some information out of her, and this is the process she uses. Like, they sit down, have a discussion, feeds off some of her memories, and tries to get as familiar as possible so that, they'll be more willing to share information, which I think was pretty cool. Considering how the episode goes anyway, I wouldn't have minded not seeing this, in a sense that, yeah, she just used an enchantment to find the timekeeper's location. That would have been enough. But I do appreciate this little segment and showing us how it actually works. I think it's actually pretty cool. And so Lady Loki's now in the TVA fighting, and this part kind of annoyed me, but it was cool. And that's the theme I'm going to be running with this whole series, well, so far, because Loki got taken out by the TVA very, very quickly. One bang and he's finished. Now Sylvie, who we learn is called Sylvie later on, takes them out quick, no problem. And she realizes she doesn't have magic, which means that she's never been there before. She's never been in the TVA. She probably doesn't even know where exactly it is, what exactly it is. And so they'll probably explain that later. Hopefully they do, because that is a big detail. So she easily takes them out. And, Loki, he struggled on a couple regular dons, but he comes out, he grabs his blades now. He has a little battle with her. Now, at first, she kind of bests him. Then they start getting on even grounds, which I personally like, because Loki was coming with all his talk, like, he was confident of himself. And it wasn't like, oh, he's just going to get essentially shitted on. He held his own in a sense, which I do appreciate. It's something I was complaining about. Then obviously they get teleported onto this world. This is one of my favorite parts because Loki bests her and he uses magic to do it. And I just don't want to see Loki like beat everyone, no, but I want to see an accurate portrayal of his character. So if he does get bested by someone else, it makes sense. You're like, cool, that was Loki. This person is just a bit more skilled. Yeah, not so much so that, oh, he's completely depowered or he's completely not being himself. I don't necessarily want to see him beat everyone because that would be boring. But here, he uses these tricks, he uses his magic, and he gets one up on her. Now, Sylvie's only really shown to use mind control and be a good fighter. Other than that, she hasn't really shown any other magic. So it makes sense, continuity. So he actually bests her, he steals the device, which is now out of battery, and he's holding it. And she doesn't know where he has it because he's using his magic basically to conceal it. So they're on this planet, which is an apocalypse. It's like one of them places where she was hiding, where stuff's about to be blown up. So, it doesn't show up on the TVA radar because there is no variance energy, because, nothing they do that actually matters. The planet is going to be destroyed anyway. So they talk for a bit. They realize they kind of have to team up because Loki has a device, but Sylvie knows how to recharge it. So they're going through this planet. I actually really like this planet. It's got like a purpley vibe to it. Sort of reminds me of the Mandalorian in a sense where it's got like very plain land, open land, looking like a desert with this purple background. And even when you go later, you see a little town and it's very scattered about. You might have one rundown building there and another one over there. Nothing high tech, definitely part of the lower class. And they kind of explore the class sort of system in this world and, the wealthy a bit later on. But they go about, they have a little chat. Now they come to this shack and they meet this woman, right? And I like the little differences between the two. None of them felt better than the other, but they both had their methods. They both had their ways of doing stuff. So Sylvie was very brash. Kick down the door. I'm going to ask a question. She gets blasted. Loki has a bit more decorum, he's trying to be a bit more deceptive, transforms into the woman's husband. And you know how them old couples go, like, they don't say that I'm nice to each other, but he gets blasted because she's like, my husband has never said a nice word like that before. But yeah, This woman's there to tell us that, there's a train going to the Ark, and the Ark is trying to get off the planet. Based on the apocalypse and, no time variance energy, the Ark is not going to go off. You know this is going to happen because this is an apocalyptic event. So if they take the power, it's sort of like it doesn't really matter because people are going to die anyway. It doesn't change anything. So they sneak their way onto the train. And this is another thing, like I said, Loki's trying to use his deceptive tactics, transform into someone, into a god and walk on, where Sylvie's more about, I'll just mind control him and get what we want. I like the little dynamic between their two approaches, and none of them triumphed over the other. Both of their tactics worked because Loki's one actually got them to the front of the line. Enchantress one. Lady Loki's enchantment got them past the ticket man. So now they're on the train, they're having a more of a discussion, and Loki talks about his mother. That's been a common theme with Loki. Loki loves his mother. His mother's probably like the closest to his heart, and he looks up to her more than he did Odin, probably more than he does Thor as well. Even though he loves them, his mother is the number one in his life. So of course, he just saw that he was partly responsible for her death. Now, even though she probably hasn't died right now, considering when he got pulled out of the timeline, he's still talking as if, yeah, she's gone, she's dead. You could tell that weighs heavy on him because he has so much love and respect for his mum. She taught him everything, she entertained him. In like Thor in general, you always get that dynamic that Thor was more Odin's son, do you know what I mean? Them two are closer, whereas Loki was more of a mummy's boy, which I think is great. But you don't really get to hear much on Sylvie, and they seem to have different upbringings, but there were some similarities crossed over. Like Lady Loki knew she was adopted, whereas Loki obviously didn't, and I'm wondering if that was on Asgard. Maybe it wasn't, maybe they had complete different parents, but they share some similarities, but not as much as I thought they would, considering they're both meant to be Loki. They talk about their love life, and you realize Loki, he's basically swings both ways. He's had his little fair share of experiences. Loki gets drunk and kind of ruins their cover. I'm rather surprised because I feel like Asgardians are heavyweights. Because think about in Avengers Age of Ultron when Thor was talking about the little drink he had, saying like only the strong can take this, and Stanley had a cameo, he took some, he was finished. So I thought Loki would be a bit more resistant, but I don't think he was actually drunk there. I think that was a sort of him enjoying himself, and because he can do whatever he wants there without being picked up, he just sort of embraced. Because when he got thrown out the train, he seemed alright. His drunkenness suddenly wore off. So I don't think he was actually drunk, but he blew their cover. Probably looks completely different to how people on this planet look. So the guy snitched on them. They had a little fight with the guards. And Loki kind of got bested. He got dashed out the train. It's a bit peak, but he was acting a fool. It's fine. And this is what I mean. With someone best Loki, I kind of want it to be a bit more relevant and a bit more in tune with what I'm seeing, and this made sense. He got bested, he got dashed out the window, but he was portrayed as still holding his own, Sylvie obviously followed him because he has the device to get them home, so she needed to go, and now they're off the train, the device is broken. Now that fighting scene, right? I want to quickly go back. This episode is proving everything I was saying about the first two episodes, where Loki can hold his own. Against these guards, he's sourcing them. So why was he struggling against that guy that Enchantress... I keep calling her Enchantress because she uses enchantment. Why was he struggling against the guy Lady Loki or Sylvie was controlling last episode? Why didn't he quickly dash him off? Because in this episode, he has magic. He can pull out knives from anywhere. He's got telekinesis that we see later. He's got so many tricks. He even does like an energy blast. So where was all of that back then? And this is what I mean about inconsistencies. It doesn't make sense for him not to be using that. And if he doesn't, at least explain it in a way that makes sense. They didn't explain it. And even when the TVA first caught him when he was in the desert in Mongolia, like, he literally walked up and he got one banged instantly. Didn't barely put up a fight. They sit down, have a little discussion. Then they realize, maybe they can take the ship and get off. They know it's going to blow up, but it's never been them on this planet before trying to get the ship. So maybe they can change stuff, which I thought at this time would create like a branch reality and, mash up the timeline. But then again, Sylvie just bombed it. So what more damage can they actually do that would be significant anyway? You have a bit more discussion. And then we get to probably the most important information. And this is one of the criticisms I have, that this episode, while I did enjoy it, not a lot actually happened. And a lot of their conversations they had in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter. And considering this is 6 episode and this is the 3rd episode, so we're halfway through, it's a bit like you need to pack these episodes with a bit more relevancy and have conversations actually mean something in terms of the story. And so we finally get this piece of information that the time variance agents are not created by the timekeepers. They're actually other variants pulled from their timeline to work. Their memories are wiped and they've been there hundreds of years. As Mobius says, time works differently here. Now, that changes a lot because if all of them were variants, where did they come from? Why were they pulled off? And I even said this, I'm pretty sure I said it, or at least thought it. Why do the time variants who are depicted as aliens, because if you look at their face, they're humanoid, but they're not humans. Why are all the workers working in the TVA humans? It doesn't make sense. Why did they create them like that if they had free reign to create them? Clearly, they didn't create them, which also means maybe they're not as powerful as we assume they are because they can't just create life like that. They've taken it and they've lied. And that's probably the biggest thing. They've lied. So if they lied about that, what else have they lied about? These are the questions you need to be asking. This is the kind of story you need to be exploring. And I feel like something like this needed to come earlier in the episode or before. And I'm thinking about later on, they need to follow this up. I don't want too much talking, too much irrelevant stuff, and them not focusing on telling us the mad story. It also means that when Mobius was talking about the jet skis, yeah, and I'm deep in it, maybe he was pulled from the 90s. Maybe he loves jet skis so much because, you know, that was one of his hobbies. He was a jet skier before, which makes so much sense because it gives him more of a backstory. And now I just want to know more about that. Also, she mentioned that they're all variants. So how did they get pulled from the timeline? What actually happened? What did they do? For someone to become a variant, it seems like you need to have some sort of ability or access to an ability to literally be pulled off a timeline. So for example, using a space stone or doing something like that. So these people all seem significant in a way, or they have some abilities, or they can do something that sets them apart, that pull them out of the timeline. Because I don't think regular people are necessarily gonna do something like that. But big questions. It's just a shame it took us 30 minutes to even get to that. So they walk to the town. Clearly the train got the majority of the way. Basically the apocalyptic event is happening right now. So I assume Sylvie before said they had about 12 hours before the event. You know, it probably didn't take them long to get on the train. The train probably took them very far. And the rest of the time they spent actually walking there. So now the moon is actually crashing in and, you know, it's going mad. There's meteors flying about. And they actually have this cool scene where I think it's all one take as well. There's a few hidden cuts. But, you know, stuff is being destroyed. Asteroids are flying off. Meteors are landing on the planet. The rocket gets destroyed and it's all looking a bit mad. This was quite interesting as well. Because it was, like I said, one shot, very fast paced. I didn't know what was going on. And it wasn't like they're fighting regular people. They're in an apocalyptic event and they're trying to survive. Like, these are the environments and scenarios I wanted to see Loki in. Now, my favorite part of the episode is like a 2-second clip of this thing's about to drop down a Loki. And he says, I got it. And he just does that. And next you know, the thing stops and moves backwards. How? Now I'm thinking about that. Maybe he has the time stone, or maybe he's just powerful. And if it's the latter, like I said, it doesn't make sense because them man were bullying him before. And then I keep calling her Enchantress. Sylvie got the drop on him when he was controlling that guy. Like, where was his abilities then? And that's what I'm talking about. So maybe he actually had the time stone, and what he did was reverse time there, which makes this next sort of whole proceedings pretty cool. And if he didn't have the time stone and it was just his magic, like I said, then where's this been all the time? This is what I'm talking about. He is powerful. He is very, very powerful. When you do make him a joke on his own show, you have to make it justifiable. You have to make someone else who's stronger than him, who's better than him for a reason. Or you have to depower him, right? And I had this discussion before. It's like Thor in Endgame. In Infinity War, he was strong. He was powerful. They thought, you know what? He's probably too powerful. He could probably take base Thanos on and give him a run for his money. Let's depower him. How are you going to do that? Well, considering he failed in Infinity War, Let's make him have depression. Let's pull him off his game. Make him gain weight. Boom. It makes sense. I was distraught to see that because I like Thor, and he was like the main guy I was looking to watch in Endgame. But I can't complain because it was integral to the story. It made sense. Now, I was saying if they done this to Loki, like he saw his death, he realized he was the reason for his mother's death or partly the cause, and because of that he lost confidence. You know, he lost his wit, he lost his charm, he wasn't on the mark, so people taking a mickey of him. He maybe lost some of his abilities, and that's why he was like that. Fair enough. I don't mind that. In my eyes, that's decent storytelling. That's good storytelling. But that wasn't the case. And then, yeah, in the end, the ark gets destroyed, and they're basically stuck. They have to find another way off. And like I said, I feel like this episode could have had a lot more in it, because they got trapped on this planet. But what significant event in the whole scheme of this story with the TVA and all that, what actually happened? And the answer is not much. We learn a bit more about Lady Loki, Sylvie, how her powers work, but you know, we wasn't really questioning that. We learned that, you know, well, we didn't really learn much about her backstory. We learned that she knew she was adopted, but we don't know by who. Whether it's Odin, Frida, I don't know. And we learned that obviously the TVA agents are all variants, and that's probably the crucial information. Other than that, not much. And while I like this episode because it felt different to the other two, obviously he wasn't with Owen Wilson and he was away from the TVA, they really do need to start packing more into these episodes, considering it's only going to be 6 episodes. Like, I said that about WandaVision at the beginning because it took 2 whole episodes to sort of set everything up. And I'm pretty sure WandaVision was actually 8 episodes, so it was probably easier to do so. But a 6 episode series need to have more relevancy. But yeah, it ends there. I don't know how they're going to get off. I don't know what they're going to do. But despite my criticisms, I just like the show. I like the concept of it. I like Loki. I didn't really like him before, and I was annoyed at how they treated him, but I just like his language. I just like his charm. I like all of that. So I am still looking forward to the next episode. And although Sylvie is probably not as charming as Owen Wilson, Loki himself carries it. You put anyone next to Loki, it just makes the scene so much better. Yeah, the way they bounce off. Tom Hiddleston is doing an amazing job, I must admit. But yeah, it's a decent episode. Just because we got to see Loki bang a bit more magic, I probably like it more than it deserves. But like I said, this is the best MCU show so far. And obviously hindsight, I know. But I am enjoying this quite a lot. But it's been your boy Sly. Thank you a lot for watching. Man, do like, please like, it helps out. Subscribe if you want to see more. We out.